welcome, citizens of the Darklands. I'm here to bring you light. This is Remington, and the Andy and Rem show every other Tuesday night.
Except this week that happens to be a Wednesday.
It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on a Tuesday night.
Usually.
It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and everything else that is cool. We're talking about Warhammer Fantasy. It's easy to learn the rules. I said it's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on a Tuesday night.
Usually.
But today it's Wednesday.
It certainly is. It's late, but I don't think anyone's going to mind that too much because we've got a packed show full of juicy wargaming, succulent goodness. The juices of the wargaming flesh are going to be running down the chins of all our viewers tonight. I can guarantee you that. So, Mr. Rem, you've had an extra day to digest all the internet goings-on and the Age of Sigmar news and all the latest developments. So I assume you're even more clued up than usual. Is that true?
Yeah, there's nothing that I don't know that I need to know.
That sounds especially like my phrase, if I don't know it, it ain't worth knowing. Okay, let's see who's in the chat, shall we? Because, of course, with this being a different day, we might actually have a different crowd in there tonight. Some people might only be available on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. So it's actually quite packed at the moment. As always, a packed house. We have the likes of Abnormal, Andrew Wade, Bazooka J. Rambo, Gloomed Ready Gaming, Graham Rigg, Joan Ziani, Josh Joyce, Mark Harvey, Mickey Jenver, Remington Steele, of course, is in there, Skeleton Flower, Thomas, just Thomas, and Newbie. And there were a few other people commenting earlier who are now considered inactive by the YouTube gods because they haven't said anything for a few minutes. So once they post something else, they'll be added back to the list. Oh yeah, there's Fluffy Dread, the Skaven Maestro himself. So, where shall we begin, Mr. Rem?
Let's begin with, it's great to be back. Feels like ages since the last show, doesn't it?
Well, it has been an extra day compared to usual.
I kind of miss doing it once a week. Now it's bi-weekly.
Do you really miss it being once a week? Because I'm pretty sure you were the one that was pushing for it to be not once a week anymore.
Was I? Are you sure about that?
That's definitely true, yes. I think it was around the time you were falling asleep during one of our in-depth War Scroll analysis.
Okay, sorry about that, everyone. But yeah, you know, there's, I don't know, we've got some nice, spicy, dicey stories and tales of woe to tell. And lots of good stuff to talk about, right?
There is plenty of juicy goodness. And in fact, let's dive straight over to the GW website, shall we, and see what's new and juicy on there. As usual, we have got lots to cover this week because, of course, both of us have been painting feverishly Age of Sigmar related models. So we'll be getting to those later on and talking about that. But before we get there, let's have a look at this first of all. So this is the new releases page before we go on to the pre-orders and then the Warhammer community stuff. So of course everyone's seen all the Kharadron Overlords, but because some of these are new releases, we haven't had a nice in-depth Remington-style look at all the War Scrolls yet. So the ones that just popped up that we should look at, I believe it's only the Endrin Master, the Chemist, and these two units here. So actually, I think we already looked at the Chemist. So let's look at the Endrin Master. I don't think we've looked at him yet. So here we go. Did we look at this guy before?
I'm sure we did. It's like the old school circus, isn't it? When you get the hammer and you have to smash the hammer down on the thing to make the bell ring, don't you?
Yes.
That's what he's got, except he's got that on his back. So he has to
he has to swing it and hit himself on the back. Let's see if we've already looked at his War Scroll. I think we probably have. Yes, I remember that. It's Ether Might Hammer. But the two units we definitely haven't seen scrolls for yet on this show are these bad boys here. So let's go to the Endrin Riggers and Sky Wardens. And of course, if you want to save yourself a click, you could get both of them for £50, which is exactly the price you would pay if you bought them separately. But of course, you're saving yourself the potential of arthritis.
This is the last wave of release, is it?
Yes, this is the last of the Kharadron Overlords for now. And we haven't had any special dice.
When I went in the shop last week, they didn't have the massive ship.
That is available now.
Ah, right, okay.
Well, it wasn't available when you went in.
I thought these guys...
Everything is available now.
These guys were my favourite ones, I thought, at the time.
People do seem to like these. But let's have a look at the War Scroll immediately, shall we? To see it's 2 separate War Scrolls. So let's start off with the Sky Wardens. So, Sky Wardens are elite formations of Arcanaut warriors that swoop from on high to skewer enemies upon long hafted sky pikes, or hover at short range to incinerate them with vulcanizer pistols. Portable ether endrins grant these Dwarden the power of true flight, allowing them to dart and weave through the air fleets before launching hit-and-run attacks against targets of opportunity. Well, that sounds very good. Let's see if they live up to that based on their rules then. So 12-inch move, can't argue with that. You don't see much faster than 12 inches. And just their basic stat line, a couple of wounds each. So with the 4+ save, survivable-ish, about the level of a Stormcast there with a couple of wounds and a decent save. So that's a pretty good start, I would say. Of course, they can fly, obviously. That's the whole point. The bonus to the leader is that you can make 3 attacks with his Sky Pike. So if you're going to have any of them with a Sky Pike, that's probably going to be the leader. But they do have quite a few interesting weapon options as well. You can have the pistols, of course, the volley gun, the skyhook, and the drill cannon. And look at the ranges on some of them. Nice, big, juicy 24-inch ranges on those guns there. So you can have them as a bit of a ranged unit whizzing around the place. But there are benefits to other weapons as well. Because you can also arm them with a grapnel launcher, which you might think, hey, that's not on here. Where's the grapnel launcher? Well, that's because it has a special rule, which we'll get to in a moment. But first of all, let's see if any of these weapons grab us immediately. And immediately, you've got to say it's the drill cannon, haven't you? Because it's doing 3 damage per attack. And the volley gun, which has 6 attacks. So those sound pretty tasty to me, but the drill cannon with its -3 rend sounds quite insane, doesn't it? I'm not sure you'd like to come up against that, although I'm not sure. Do any of your troops have armor in any one of your armies? Mr. Remington.
Hello. No, not so keen on lots of armor. I like rushing up and attacking.
Is that because of your love for Ungors?
I don't know.
Of course, they're not known to wear armor.
No, I like speed and shooting. I do. These guys.
Zuchi Rambo is a big fan of the gun butt weapon name.
I like the drill cannon myself.
Yes, I think everyone loves the drill cannon, but there are special rules here. So the drill cannon, if the wound roll is a 6 or more, pick another enemy unit within 3 inches, and then they can take extra damage as well. What do you think about that?
Let's say that again.
If you roll 6 when wounding, the damage could also spread to another nearby unit.
Okay.
So it's not going to come up that often, is it? Because you're only having 1 shot with it.
Yeah, okay. It seems fair.
Unless you're boosting them with the chemist.
Andy, I was going to buy this. I was going to get into this faction, but then you sort of jumped the gun and bought it all before I could. So I thought, as you know, you're my nemesis and I'm your nemesis. We can't have the same armies, can we? So I've got to learn to hate these guys.
I think you do. You have to get the hatred brewing up inside you and channel that into rolling something that isn't a 1 on the skull dice. Which could happen eventually. So the grapnel launcher is a bit of a big deal because it can fire it at the end of the shooting phase after all of the shooting has been resolved. Choose a terrain feature or a unit, friend or foe, with more than 10 wounds, basically, and roll the dice. And on a 4 or more, then you can move towards them any distance. So Can you imagine hopping onto an objective that's potentially 24 inches away after the shooting phase? How do you feel about that? Does that sound like the kind of rule that could snatch victory away from your Ungor raiders in the last turn?
It sounds like if you need to know what these guys can do, otherwise you're going to be screwed.
Yes, you're not going to fence them in. And if you're taking big monsters that are maybe down to their final wound, and you think, oh, I'm all right, I'm out of their charge range, I've survived the shooting barrage, and oh, what's this? They've just grappled to this monster's left buttock and just made their way all the way over there.
See,
It's
Andy, this is why this army is so perfect for you, because usually in games you like to invent that little rule at the end that enables you to win, but you don't need to with these guys because they've already got those rules on them.
That is nice. Although I think that's more of a fact of me going through the rules of the scenario with you beforehand and then you just forgetting the victory conditions until the game's about to end. That's probably a small factor in why that happens.
But you know what? The rule I'm really looking for with these guys is where, you know, the thing blows up. These balloons explode.
Well, you're not really going to see anything like that, I'm afraid.
Oh.
Although you can mount them on one of the big ships, but they don't count as the crew capacity because they're just kind of hanging onto the side. But it does mean you're not going to be able to shoot them. So
the only way I could see myself getting into these guys is if, you know, the big balloon things is painting them like a circus top, you know, with like the red and white stripes. I mean, that could be a good look.
I think that would take you a very long time and you'd immediately regret it after the first one.
Oh.
It'd be like when you painted those dwarven spears with that spiral pattern.
Oh, God. Oh.
If I just brought back painful memories, you're having Vietnam-like flashbacks now.
And it's like you take the proud photograph of your regiment and you look back on the photograph that you just posted on all the Warhammer sites, and then you notice all the they're not straight lines, and there's like paint all messed up. But it didn't look like that when you painted it. But the photograph highlights all the deficiencies. Not so.
What I would like to see actually on any unit that has any kind of drill weaponry would be a special rule so that they, on the roll of a 1, they become confused when someone shouts out "fire drill," and they all just leave the school and just line up in the playground outside.
I love it when the fire drill goes. That saved me in lessons many a time when I didn't know what I was doing.
And I'm glad you're admitting to that on an international live stream. I'm sure there's absolutely zero chance of that filtering to anyone who knows you from your professional life. Okay, so we've established that's tasty, and they don't pay any penalty for attaching themselves to ships at all. There's more rules, though, you'll be happy to know. So any units that suffer unsaved wounds from a skyhook, you can move d6 inches towards them with these guys. So with that extra movement potentially as well, if you have skyhooks and the grapnel launcher, you can just be flying basically the entire distance of the table almost in one turn.
But why would you want to grapple and get closer? Because they're not that great in combat, are they, these guys? Although they do have one more wound than the normal.
Well, if there's something you need to finish off, or if you need to get onto an objective in the final turn and you're really far away, you're moving 12 inches, you could shoot a skyhook at a unit and pull yourself d6 closer, which could bring you to within 24 inches of a piece of terrain, which you can then move the entire 24 inches to get to.
You see, Andy, in your like childlike mind, you're comparing every scenario to an objective-based scenario. What if it's not objective-based?
If there aren't actual scoring objectives on the table, then you can bring yourself closer to that giant enemy monster that's been put down to its last wound in the shooting phase, and you need to kill it immediately. Because, of course, you're going to be going first if it's your own turn.
I guess.
Get these guys into combat, dish that last wound out, because they're not that bad in combat, really. These guys, I think it's the other guys that are slightly better in combat.
Oh,
but
yeah.
The Sky Pike isn't bad.
The Skyhook's got bloody 3 damage.
Yeah, D3 damage on the Sky Pike, the Sky Hook and Drill Cannon, 3 damage, just a flat 3. No rolling a dice there, so there's no chance of coming up with a 1 on those. They're not bad in combat if you give them some Sky Pikes. But then you're not having a huge amount of variety in the unit because you're probably going to have 3 models or 6. So you're not going to be able to fit in all the different weapons.
Yeah.
There's also a little thing called Sky Mines and Timed Charges. So basically, when enemies end up near you, they might take mortal wounds. Possibly. But they probably won't. Fair enough.
And yeah, Andy, can I just clear something up with you, like rules-wise? They're always like, I'm sure it's quite rudimentary to everyone else watching, but say you go in, you're fighting a monster with a skyhook, right? And you get two, there's 3 of these guys with skyhooks attacking the monster. 2 of them get wounds through, and it does 3 damage. So, that's 6 damage, right?
Yes.
Right. Now, what if that unit of 3 sky guys goes against like 20 orcs, right? And does 6 and gets 2 wounds through. Is that 6 damage on the whole unit, or is that?
Yes, it is.
It is not just
on 6 damages on the whole unit.
Right, interesting.
Although, interestingly enough, the new 40k rules that are quite similar have actually changed that so that it only applies to each model in the new 40k rather than the whole unit. So it's one of a few things that we'll be talking about a little bit later on, and we'll get your thoughts on whether you'll maybe give 40k a try at some point with the new AoS-ified rules. But before we go on to that, let's just have a look at the other unit now. So have a quick look at the Endrin riggers, who are going to be quite similar, as you can imagine. So the same kind of move and wounds and save and all that, but they have different weapon options. So let's have a look. They've also got the nice long-range weaponry. They've got rapid-fire rivet guns as their short-range weapon. And these guys are the tasty ones in close combat. So the Aethematic Saw has -2 rend, which is nice. As you'll notice that whenever something has a rule that ignores rend, it usually only ignores -1, doesn't it? So D3 damage there, wounds on a 2+.
2+?
Yep, if you arm these guys with Aethematic Saws and get them into combat, it's going to be pretty tasty, especially if you manage to buff them up somehow. So let's have a look at their special rules, shall we? So of course they've got the same rule for the exploding drill and the grapnel launcher. So you can give these guys a grapnel launcher because you definitely would want to get them in combat if you've got these Aethematic Saws on them, because they're very, very tasty. And of course they have the skyhook to get closer as well. So they actually have less special rules, this unit.
It's Andy, they're with the melee weapons. In a round of attack, can they attack with both things, or do they have to choose one?
What do you mean?
The model is armed.
Well, they'll either have the Aethematic Saw or they'll have a gun that they can use the gun butts of.
Right. Okay.
Now, do you want to hear the best part about this unit? So, in each of your hero phases, this unit can repair a single sky vessel within 1 inch, even if they're embarked on it, and it immediately heals 1 wound. So, in addition to the other ways you have of repairing the sky vessels, for example, the Endrin Master, and some of them just self-heal, if you have a couple of units of these just clinging to the side, it's auto-healing 2 wounds in addition to all that in the hero phase. How do you like your chances of bringing down one of those big vessels when they've got some of these guys attached to it? Well, just stacking up the healing capabilities of the ships.
Well, it's obvious, isn't it? You kill the things that are trying to heal it.
Well, not if they're embarked on it, because you can't actually target them in that case.
Well, then if they're embarked on it, they can't heal it.
It says they can heal though, or the one they are embarked on. It specifies that while they're embarked on it, they can still heal it.
Yeah, but what if you shooting the vessel and it's got a big, you know what I mean? They've got to go outside to fix it. They can't fix it from the inside.
Maybe they're just hammering away on the inside of the hull, getting the dents out that way.
And they've got a big balloon attached to them.
Well, maybe they just leave their balloon on a hook on the outside of the ship, and they collect it on their way out.
Mm-hmm.
So people are saying that these are the better of the 2 units to go for, and with that special rule, that's probably what tips them over the edge, in my view. That ability there, and the saws for getting them in close combat, pretty tasty as well. But I've ordered a box of each. I'm not sure. I'll probably build them as 3 of each rather than a unit of 6 of anything, because I just like to have a bit of everything in my armies.
See, I know how your brain is working, Andy. This whole army, the way you're going to play them, is exactly how you used to do the dwarf gun line. In it, where you had an engineer at the back making sure that your organ gun would never ever misfire, and you'd just be blasting everything. And that would be kind of game over. Am I right?
I don't know about that exactly. There are much cheesier people than me when it comes to the Kharadron Overlords, because even when I went and purchased my chemist from Games Workshop, the member of staff told me he was buying 5.
5 chemists?
Yes, and I'm going to get him 1, just for that ability of adding 1 attack with a particular weapon to everybody in a unit. So if you take 40 of something, that's an extra 40 attacks just from that 1 chemist.
Well,
There is cheese to be squeezed.
How many points are these guys then, do you reckon? I'd say, what, 100?
The chemist, he's not that much.
No, I mean,
he's roundabout.
The Sky Riggers.
Oh, the Sky Riggers. I could tell you, but I don't have the book handy right now. It's all the way over on the other side of the room.
I'm guessing 100, 120. What would your guess be?
Yeah, there's only 3 of them in units. They're probably about that.
Right.
By the way, I've just noticed in the chat there is someone who has quite clearly, some would say ripped off, others would say improved upon one of your ideas. Did you see that video from Mr. Lawrence Jameson?
Was it the guy with the dog and the cowboy hat?
Yes. He took your Remington hot pot, your little painting capsule, and he's actually modified it so it doesn't require slave labor anymore. Did you see?
No, I saw it, but I didn't actually watch it.
Well, I think you're going to have to watch it because he's probably violated various copyrights and infringed on numerous things that are clearly your concepts.
How does he make it work?
Well, I think you're going to have to watch the video to see that. It's very innovative, though, I'll tell you that much. I'll leave you to be surprised when you watch it, though. Okay, we've got more to look at now. This isn't going to take us long, though. Back to the GW website. Let's have a look at the pre-order section. So, the Sigmarite Mausoleum. You may notice that that is just... It looks like 2 Gardens of Moor squashed together.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah. It is, isn't it?
Yeah, it seems so. Which totally ruins the joke that I've been plotting for the last 2 years. Since Age of Sigmar was released, I was just waiting for them to include a smaller amount of pieces of terrain in the Garden of Moor, so I could call it the Garden of Less. But unfortunately, they haven't done that.
Are those statues part of the Garden of Moor?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah.
Okay.
There you go. So the Sigmarite Mausoleum. So if you really want lots of graveyard stuff.
But the thing is, they don't die. Sigmarines don't die, do they? So how can it be Sigmarite?
Maybe they just create monuments to mortal people that die, that they were allied with, like all your flagellants.
Well, it's nice they call them Sigmarite, I suppose. They'd like that on the tombstone, I guess.
Now, we were wondering why all the mats were smaller than what you would assume the size of a game would be, and this one is 4x4. So the reason is, of course, I'm going to assume that the Age of Sigmar Skirmish is out now. And this is quite a nice looking mat.
Yeah, this is better than the corn one, isn't it?
Yes, because it doesn't look like someone's just like puked a pizza.
Yeah. This is pretty ace. If you don't want to be really, really cool, is if on the other side of the map, there was a different map. Do you know what I mean?
That would be cool, but it would probably deprive them of round about £50 of your money.
But that's the Remington. That's a new Remington idea right there. I don't know. They just come out my head. The double-sided Remington battle map.
I could see it. Could you do like a double-ended combat gauge as well?
No, Andy, this is what you do, innit? You just like totally demoralize an amazing idea. So you could have like the corn thing on the other side, and then like the Sigma one on this side, and then like appease both sets of fans like that, right?
Hasn't this ripped off your idea of mold line removal, by the way? The Remington mold line removal steam engine.
I don't remember inventing that. Well, that's one of your...
Maybe it was just one of your prototypes.
This looks cool, man.
So you can actually iron these things.
I might get this.
And this obviously looks like it's very, very compatible with the Sigmarite Mausoleum / Garden of Moor. It's clearly designed to be used in that way, isn't it? Look, it's got gravestones all over it.
Yeah, this looks like a lot of fun.
So if you're an undead player, which I don't consider myself for Age of Sigmar anymore because I find them too much hassle to use that many models,
Right.
then go for it. I'm sure some people have played much more elite undead armies than me. I just can't handle horde armies in Age of Sigmar, or 40k for that matter. So you can wrinkle it up, and it immediately folds out nice and flat.
I think this is going to be a big seller. This is going to be one of them things in like 5 years where you can't get it anymore. It's going to like sell for £200 on eBay.
So this ties in very nicely with Warhammer Age of Sigmar Skirmish, which is only £6, by the way. Or you can save 1 pence by getting the digital version. And they've released all these like mini factions as well. So apparently the main difference with the Skirmish version is that there are no minimum unit sizes. And no gigantic creatures or anything like that. Which would make sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So, for example, let's have a look at the Stormcast little force you can buy here. So you get some Prosecutors, you get some Liberators, you get 2 Retributors there. And is that the Knight Questor there? Yes, it is. So you get a hero and you get just a few models from a unit. So whether you actually run them as a unit or whether everyone is run individually, I don't know. But all that info will be released shortly. If anyone knows, actually, then drop it in the chat. Because people are going quite nuts in the chat.
What do you think about this selection of forces they've given us? Do you think there's going to be more coming? Because I mean,
well, apparently you can use them with the existing forces already that are out there. These just the first boxes they've come out with.
What's great about the Khorne one, when you get to that, is they're they're great additions to the starter sets.
Yes. I would say this Flesh Eaters one, that doesn't look like much of a skirmish force to me. That looks a bit model heavy to be a skirmish force, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, that's pretty. I think that's pretty cool, that one. I mean, especially because ghouls like come back from the dead, don't they?
If I'm going to be playing a skirmish game, though, I don't want to be running like 25 models. That seems a bit much to me. When I hear skirmish, I think between 5 and 15 models per side.
Yeah, you just sold a load of ghouls, didn't you, on eBay?
No.
I probably didn't buy them because of your paint jobs, but...
Oh, those ghouls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't actually paint those. Someone gave them to me ages ago.
Oh, it's a disclaimer, is it?
Yes.
I think they're pretty hard to paint, them guys.
All my undead stuff was all quick shaded.
The thing is,
I
with
can't
them,
speak to the difficulty of painting any of it.
the thing is with them ghouls is when you paint them, you look at it from like under, you look at it from below, and you're looking up. But when they're actually on the table, you just see the top of the heads and the back. So all the time you spent doing the faces is kind of wasted because you can't even see them unless you know what I mean? Unless you,
yes,
you put your head down and lay it on the table.
We've got some info in the chat from people who are in the know here. Well, so first of all, Newbie has shot down your double-sided mat idea. He says that one side has to be the mouse mat grip material to hold onto the table to stop it sliding around.
Well, not if it still retained that function. See?
So in the Remington lab right now, people are working on a material that can hold a design and also grip the surface.
Exactamundo.
Interesting. Okay, then Bazooka J. Rambo says you only need 3 miniatures for a warband and the maximum is 16. So why did they give you 23 in the Flesh Eaters box? Curious.
Well, those ghouls are dead useful though for like I mean, like I did some like undead ogres, which I use as crypt horrors, and I had some like ghouls coming out of its stomach, so they're like really nice for additional pieces for dioramas and that, you know.
Yeah, I suppose. Mr. Tabletop Minions in the house says you can run the models individually, so you don't have to run them as small units. And I'm afraid your idea has been shot down yet again. Wall Under TV says there are a few double-sided mat companies. Well, there you go. Were you thinking about that idea, perhaps, and projecting your thoughts somewhere? And they've harvested your energies.
I'll have to see the quality, whether it lives up to the Remington triple.
Whether it gets the Remington seal of approval remains
the
to be seen.
accessible area standards, I don't know, but it's doubtful.
Right, let's have a look at this, shall we? Let's see how close we can actually get to see this. So the minimum of everything does appear to be 1. I can't see any 2s in the minimum unit sizes there. Maximum 20 on some things, though, so you can actually have gigantic units of things still. Yeah, how could you have maximum... Is that 20? I'm sure that says 20. How could you have maximum 16 models then? Who said that? Must be wrong. Or maybe there are just certain sizes of game you can have and it works its way up.
Is this like 6 pages long then, this book?
Let's find out. 40-page softback book. So it's like it's kind of like one of those old white dwarfs, you know, when they've really shortened it.
No, that's cool.
And that size.
Is there a Khorne guy on the front and a Sigmar guy on the front?
Yeah, it's Khorne doing battle with the Seraphon, actually.
Well, that's okay. That's cool, but they don't offer us a Seraphon skirmish for us
yet. And that doesn't actually look like a skirmish battle to me. It looks like a full-on bloody battle there. Look at all the flyers in the background. You
got Pterodon, so I'm presuming if they did do a skirmish force for the lizard men, it'd have some flying guys in there.
Well, they must have rules in there, otherwise they wouldn't have put them on the cover. That would be ridiculous. They've only shown the chaos page, really. And then rules for skirmish battles, which you can actually read right here. If you can zoom in far enough. It's a little bit small and blurry, though. But apparently the rules are pretty much the same, apart from the fact that you can take tiny units of things.
Yeah. What do you think you'd get in an Ogre force, which is like 1 Thunder Tusk, wouldn't it?
I don't know whether you'd be allowed to actually take Thunder Tusks. Who knows? We'll find out, won't we?
Like 5 man-eaters. That'll be fun.
So there's matched play in there, which is interesting. The Shadespire campaign, so you can play a linear narrative campaign in there. Interesting. And of course, all the rules. So there is some more info on this, which I believe we can find right here. So have you pre-ordered your copy yet, Mr. Remington?
No. Not yet.
Well, I certainly have.
Have you?
Yes, and it should be out this weekend, I think. And with the retailer I've purchased it from, I think it was only £4.60. So very, very reasonable for a rule book. Small-scale, fast-paced skirmish game set in the mortal realms. It's a compact book. That's kind of salesman talk for it's tiny, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you think they're going to be magic in it?
I don't see why not. There are obviously certain characters that do have magic spells, and of course, look, you get this guy in the Orc Force.
Oh, you
so
do.
You're able to use his spells.
You know, I wish like one thing I miss about 8th edition Warhammer is the fact that you had like loads of different spells to choose from, or that you roll randomly to get like, and then you see these like mighty wizard characters, and they've got like Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield, and then one other spell. It kind of sucks, like because you know what I mean. You'd have more tactical play, wouldn't you, if they had like 4 or 5 spells to choose from?
Well, more spells are coming in.
Are they? Oh, that's cool.
Each of the new books generally has abilities that are very spell-like, don't they? We've actually had a very negative comment here. Stu Gibson says, "Must say I've got no interest in AoS Skirmish at all. Main AoS is skirmishy enough. If not, I'll play Frostgrave." Well, I'm sure GW are after a slice of that skirmish gaming pie, which is quite a significant pie in this day and age. There are a lot of games that are widely played. And, of course, GW did have kind of a monopoly on all of these different sectors, with the likes of Necromunda and Mordheim and so on in the past. So it did seem odd when they abandoned all that stuff years ago. But they're back to reclaim their lands now, much like the Stormcast moving in to take out the forces of chaos.
So can I ask a question, Andy? So with this skirmish stuff, like, and they're like lots of short battles, can like your characters like get better with experience?
I would assume in the campaign system they can.
That'd be cool. I must admit, out of those, I like the Chaos one.
You like, look at this Chaos Warband here.
Yeah, because I've got the starter set and I've painted them all, and I've got like Anglefim guy, the giant ape Chaos. I've got Valkyrie the Bloody, and then I've got the Gore Chosen figures, and this would be a really nice addition because although they're the same Blood Warriors that you get, you don't get those Wrathmongers or that champion in any other box set. So that's a really clever deal, that one.
Would you be tempted to add this to your Khorne force then? Because of course, any of the characters you've already got, they're very easy to convert, aren't they?
Yeah, I think if I got those guys, then I'd be sorted with a decent Khorne force. Of course, I wouldn't have any the heavy cavalry, but
and you wouldn't have any chance to win when I set you up like 48 inches across the table in front of my gun line.
There is that as well. Yeah, I wouldn't be painting them the chainy guys all with red skin though. I don't really like that look.
So this is great for you Mortal Realms veterans out there who fancy trying something different with your collection. Well, I have to say, I do find Age of Sigmar quite skirmishy already, mainly because I play Stormcast and there aren't that many models, compared to if I was playing, say, Ghouls. But even in this force here, it looks like you're having to move around quite a lot of models. But the main reason I want the book is because it's so cheap, and there may be people who haven't tried Age of Sigmar because they don't want to buy that many models that may be willing to try the skirmish version, and that could be a gateway into the larger scale game. So I just want to have it on hand in case such a person should arrive on the scene interested in playing Age of Sigmar.
Which warband would you get, Andy?
Well, if I was to purchase a warband out of these, I wouldn't get the Stormcast because I already have plenty of models to use for them. I actually like the Orc one, or should I say the Auric one, Iron Jaws, because there's not too many models. I like the way a lot of the undead models look, but there's just too many of them for my liking, and I've already painted Crypt Horrors, so they don't interest me that much. So if I were to buy a fresh warband, which I probably won't, then it would probably be the Iron Jaws. I've seen some people paint them in a very nice orange colour scheme as well, so that could sell it for me.
Well, there was that Shadespire trailer, wasn't there? And it had the skeletons. There's new skeletons, so I suppose they'll be in the starter force, maybe.
Perhaps. Now, Mr. Remington, how do you feel about skirmish gaming in general? Playing a game with just smaller amounts of models on the table? Have you actually sampled any skirmish games at all, other than the boxed games that come on a board, for instance?
No, I haven't. I've always played mass army games because I wanted to put on the table all the cool stuff I painted, and because I don't get to play that often, you kind of want to try out all your stuff. So yeah, this I don't know. This kind of appeals to me right now because you can have loads of quick games, and then stuff that you like, you can then put into your bigger battles.
Just the idea of just rocking up to the gaming table on the nice 4x4 mat with your 5 ogres and nothing else, with a graveyard around the place, does that interest you then?
Yeah, I'd give that a go, especially knowing that you could get maybe two or three games in one session.
Well, I don't know about that with you. No. And your grasp on the rules, it might take a little bit longer than that.
Well, you should explain the rules more clearly.
I'll wait till the end of the game to do that.
Oh.
That's time to explain the rules to you because it's already too late. Okay, let's see what people are saying about this in the chat before we move on. Warlander TV, I'm loving Frostgrave and wish GW would just stick out Mordheim. Well, it looks like Mordheim ain't coming back. Although, if you're looking for evidence that they're quite happy to stick into the old world a little bit with newer products, then Blood Bowl, even though it wasn't really in line with the main story of the old world, it was kind of set there in kind of a bizarro version of the old world, wasn't it? So they're not completely abandoned that. So maybe Mordheim could come back one day.
It'd be good to get like a novel or a series of novels based around the skirmish idea, you know, because the Sigmar books that we've read so far are like, you know, huge battles and big forces. It'd be nice to have some complementary games that with, you know, had 4 or 5 characters in a band that you could get to know and love, you know what I mean?
And for instance, when you've come up here to play games, usually in the second game, you're getting pretty exhausted. So imagine playing one really huge Age of Sigmar game, and then after that, taking that result and saying, okay, this character survived, and this guy, they're now going to move on into like the encampment of the enemy and try and pick up this sacred artifact or something, and just have a smaller scale game in skirmish mode, just to tack on to the end of it. I think that'd be quite fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, like a kind of a Magnificent Seven style thing.
And the least surprising comment of the night is from Skeleton Flower, who says, skirmish games are amazing, but of course, he is well known for spending thousands of hours on each model. So who would have thought that someone that spends that long painting one model would love games that only require you to paint about 5? Very predictable there, Mr. Skeleton.
No, I think these are brilliant. You know, there's a few armies I don't have that I want, and without jumping 2 feet first, I could just, you know, get a little force that I can use. And if I really like it, I can start collecting more.
Right. Speaking of possibly expanding your collection, the question on everyone's lips at the moment, Mr. Remington, is the AoS-ification of 40k going to get you to give it a try at some point? Since you're already such an expert in the Age of Sigmar rules, it's only a short step up into the slightly more complicated rules, which are the new edition of Warhammer 40,000. Pre-order on the 3rd of June.
That's my birthday.
Ooh.
That's my birthday.
There you go. That could be an omen, couldn't it? So we're less than a month away from it hitting the shelves.
So you say AoS-ified. Is that clarified that it's AoS-ified?
Yes, they've given lots of information on the new rules. It's very much like Age of Sigmar with a few exceptions. There are a few things that they've kept intact. For example, you know how all the old games had a weapon skill versus weapon skill?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they've got rid of that and just got a straight to hit roll now, like Age of Sigmar, but they've kept the comparing strength and toughness. So it's kind of a hybrid between the old ways and AoS in many ways. They've changed it so piling in and all that works the same way. I don't think you can shoot out of combat. I think you have to shoot at the unit you're fighting. I think I heard that. I'm not sure whether that's been confirmed at all.
Well, that's a big difference then, isn't it? So yeah, you got a bunch of you got these ultramarines on the right.
Well, these are the new extra tall Space Marines, which I believe, yes, they are painted in ultramarine colours, but look at these guys. These are like the true scale Space Marines who are taller than the old ones.
So where would like a normal human go up to?
A normal human on this model would probably go up to about the chest.
Right, that'd be like an Imperial guy, yeah?
Yeah, an Imperial guy probably goes up to the bottom of his little chest design there.
Wow.
So they're quite significantly larger. The old Space Marines only go up to somewhere on the shoulder pad. So they do look quite tiny in comparison, the old ones.
Yeah, they're quite elegant looking, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm not that interested in getting more Space Marines, so I've already got some. However, they are very nice, of course.
Well, why do you think the Space Marines are so popular?
Because they're cool. They're in space. They always win. One of them can take on a whole planet of orcs. That's probably got something to do with it. I think they were hoping for that kind of reaction with Stormcast.
Yeah. No,
I'm sure we'd be interested to see here is the Nurgle stuff, because there are a lot of possibilities to convert these.
Big time.
So the way I would look at these, the aesthetic is, and the paint style has moved very much towards the fantasy side of Nurgle, hasn't it? If you think about all the stuff that came out during the end times, around that period, all this stuff, the way the aesthetic has gone, it looks very much like that. Not so much the big guns on the side of it, but you get the idea. And some of these guys, the guy in the lab coat here, has a very Dead Zone kind of look about him.
They're my favourite ones. Them Poxwalkers, they're absolutely amazing. They could easily be put into fantasy, right? easily.
All you would have to do is just not use the guns, probably. And that's it.
Definitely.
Only a couple of them actually have guns in the first place.
And the Plague Marines could be the Thingy Kings, couldn't they? What they're called? You know, in Nurgle, they've got the, you know, what they're called? Those sort of Nurgle champions.
Plague Bearers.
No, keep going. Blight Kings.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, they could easily. I mean, they've got. I'm sure they look like they've got some Blight King parts on them. So,
and yes, members of the audience are commenting that this is supposed to be an AoS only show. We're only talking about 40k because it's being AoS-ified, so it is related, and we're seeing what the old Remster thinks of it and whether he might be tempted to give it a go. I mean, look at some of these. This guy, all you would really have to do, get rid of his gun, and then really go nuts adding tentacles or something to his armor so it looks slightly less like Space Marine armor. And there you go. That big bell, all that stuff is already plenty fantasy Nurgle-ish enough, isn't it?
I bet Mickey Genver's having babies right now looking at all this stuff, isn't she? She loves her Nurgle.
Many people are big fans of Nurgle. And other AoSification that's gone on. The rules are going to be free, the core rules anyway, and they're bringing out kind of Grand Alliance books as well. They're not quite Grand Alliance, but you can see here they've got the Index Imperium in 2 volumes, which cover all your various Imperial races, one for Chaos, and then the alien races combined into a couple of books for now.
So what comes under Xenos? Is that like Eldar?
Yeah, Eldar, Tyranids, Tau, and so on.
All the good
Orcs,
stuff.
Necrons.
Yeah, I like all that stuff.
So, do you think you could be drawn in, potentially, if the rules are sufficiently simplified to AoS levels almost?
So, all that in a box, yeah?
All that is in the box, which apparently is, I think it was £95 was the price.
But yeah, if I had the time and if I had the money, I would.
You do get a lot in there, don't you?
You get a heck of a lot. I mean, the Plague little spaceship thing, I'm not so keen on that, but everything else, I love.
What do you think of this?
What?
That looks like a new measuring device to me.
It's kind of cool, isn't it? That is.
They've got rid of the sticks and introduced, bum bum bum, the ruler. That is innovative, isn't it? Although you can't actually put it round your neck, so I'm not sold on it anymore. Any GW measuring device has to be also a fashion accessory, otherwise I'm not buying it.
It looks like it kind of stacks up like it looks like a track ruler. You know, like you can.
I will say it's good that it's clear what the number is, because on all their previous measuring sticks, because it's all the same colour, you have to, when it gets halfway down the stick, you sometimes have to squint your eyes a bit to make sure you're on the right inch, don't you?
Yeah. Well,
so,
I'll throw the question back at you, Andy. Does it tempt you to go to the dark side?
Well, I've already got about 1.5 armies for 40k, so it doesn't really tempt me to spend any money. I don't think I could justify buying the new starter set, for example, because I don't need more models at the moment. And I only play 40k once every few months, because I do know some people that exclusively play it.
Do you love it? You like it better than Age of Sigmar?
No. I don't like the current rules at all, really. I only play it because I think it's fun just to play with certain people that I wouldn't be able to play games with otherwise, because that's the only game they play. But I don't really like the rules at all. So usually I just kind of go through the game with just the bare essential knowledge of the rules, kind of on autopilot, and just try and tell a funny story instead of actually caring about the rules.
Yeah. You think it's going to be a big hit?
I think it probably will be. Because 40k is already a big hit, and I can't see it alienating enough people because they've kept enough familiarity of the old stuff. They haven't just completely blown up the universe and caused people to set fire to their armies. So I think they've learnt a lot. Age of Sigmar was obviously a guinea pig in many ways, and they've learned what people appreciated about that release and the way that was handled and what alienated people, and they've corrected their strategy with their big cash cow, because you can't take risks with 40k, because that flopping is the kind of thing that could actually send them spiraling out of business, I imagine.
This looks like it's going to placate 40k fans and also bring in AoS fans. and vice versa.
It certainly could do. I'm definitely going to be trying it one way or the other, but whether that means I'll actually buy the full rule book remains to be seen. I'd start off with the core rules, which are going to be free on the website, and there will be an app as well at some point. But that's not going to be on release.
I've got one more question. Has the Imperium been destroyed and remade? Like
no. They had their version of the end times wasn't quite so severe. A few planets got blown up, but I don't think it's going to be hugely life-changing for the universe. Okay. They did not blow up the world this time. Oh, look at that for a combat gauge. It's the Imperial Eagle. How do you feel about that?
It looks like the palm of someone's hand sort of flapping at you.
It does a little bit.
Yeah.
Command dice.
No, they're kind of cool. Yeah. I like them. They're different.
Wound trackers, which are just the dice with numbers on.
Yeah.
Tactical objective cards.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's about it.
What's that last thing? You missed one out there.
Which one? Right. Sector Imperialis objectives.
Yeah, what are they?
Those are just for scatting around on the table, and then you'll get an objective card that says you must claim objective 1 to get a victory point or some such.
So that's cool. Instead of it just being like a stone as the objective, they've actually got little, ammo.
Well, you may use stones, but in most of my games, I tend to use Ferrero Rocher.
Yeah, I wish they'd have something like that for Age of Sigmar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be nice. Although you could just easily make your own with the round bases, couldn't you? That have a bit of terrain on them.
I guess. I mean, there's been a few bits and bobs, haven't there, for Age of Sigmar? Like, well, for Warhammer Fantasy, in Battle for Skull Pass, you had the Goblin totem, didn't you? But it'd be nice if they had like something like that, and they had like a Goblin token, Hoard of Treasure, some tied up female slaves for like the Dark Elves. Can't think of anything else off the top of my head. I'd have to go to the think tank, but there you go. That's a $1 million idea.
Maybe when they've released enough races, they'll come out with a big box of nice objectives. So you'd have your piles of your gold, for instance. Or they seem to be pronouncing it gold on Warhammer TV.
What would a Seraphon objective be?
What do the spirits of deceased lizard men that only exist as slan memories, what would they go after?
A spawning pool.
Let's go with that.
The spawning pool. All right, I'll give you...
The Remington spawning pool, there's an idea.
I'll throw you out one more. What would the Kharadron Overlords be trying to get as an objective?
Well, surely it would be some pure ether gold.
What does that look like? Because it's just vapor, isn't it? It's cloud vapor.
I would have to finish reading the fluff before I can tell you whether it has kind of a physical appearance or whether they just have to detect it. And
maybe like a bright orb then.
I imagine they kind of hoover it up like Ghostbusters with a vacuum. That's how I think of it anyway. When I've read the fluff, I'm sure it'll shatter all my illusions.
What would Chaos want? What would Khorne want? Like a blood fountain.
A blood fountain. It's like in one of those fancy shops when they have like a big chocolate fountain.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Khorne version would just have blood with it, and you just dip a skull in it.
That would be good for undead as well. They'd like that.
Skulls everywhere.
Drinking, yeah. That's cool.
Okay, so that's the end of the 40k discussion, I think, unless anyone has any really interesting questions to ask us on that topic. But I think the general consensus is that the Age of Sigmar community are willing to give it a go, and it may have actually scared off some of the, how shall I put this, the less desirable elements of the 40k community. Some of the real hardcore tournament cheesemongers might have vanished as well, which is what we always like that, don't we? When they decide to take off for different systems and leave it for the common folk instead.
Magnosis says, "Oh, Rem, again going on about female elf slaves. Yuck."
You don't want to be around for the release of Witch Coven.
They do exist, you know. They are out there.
Is this why Witch Coven has stalled?
Well,
Because all the focus groups keep giving you really negative feedback on it.
As you know, with any $1 million idea, there's always a certain amount of flack you got to take from people telling you it's already been done before, or it's not a very good idea, whatever. But the true sign of the inventor is the guy or girl that battles through those shields of doubt and forges forward. That's why very soon, Andy, we're going to be doing Andy 2D6 versus the Witch Coven live on air. Maybe it's even a separate show, or we're going to, put it into this show and see what happens.
There's definitely something to consider. We could actually have it as fresh original content for your channel, couldn't we? Since you haven't put any new videos up on there in several months.
No, that's not true. I did put up a Dark Elf story up last month.
Wasn't that you just reading?
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's time for your favourite segment of the week now.
Go on, Ed.
Do you have the instrument ready?
Yes, I do.
Because we have What the Hell Is That for you coming up right now. And the miniature that is depicted, we've zoomed in on a tiny piece of that miniature. It is currently available in the Age of Sigmar range. The first person to type the name of that miniature into the chat is going to be added to the prize pool list. So, while Mr. Remington plays us in, I shall get the screen share ready. Here we go. Take it away.
What the hell is that? 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 Only Andy and Remington know. What the hell is that? What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it a necromancer's cat? What the hell is that? Only Andy and Remington know.
Right. What the hell is that, ladies and gentlemen? If no one gets it for a couple of minutes, then clues will start to be dropped. But I think people are going to get this one.
It looks like a microscopic organism.
I can tell you right now, it is not a microscopic organism. Warlander TV says, my soul. Nope. YouTube Newbie says, it's the gun butt. No, it's not.
Is it Sauron?
Nope. Joshua Etson says, Thunder a Barrel. Nope. Bazooka J Rambo has a suggestion that's actually 40k related, so Fluffy Dread says, that girl from The Ring. Nope. Dino Town Edition, Zench Sorcerer. Nope. Rob Lloyd, sweet Dwarf Cannon Barrel. Nope. Seamus Lie Sack Iron Drake Gun. Warlander TV, Earthshaker Cannon, Chaos Dwarf. Nope. Come on, somebody's got to get this. Joshua Edson, Thunder Gun Barrel from a cannon or rifle for Grundstocks. Nope. Come on, somebody's got to get it. I'm going to narrow it down now and tell you that it's someone who might be considered short, but certainly knows how to get high. Come on. Gary Waddingham says Hellblaster Volley Gun. Nope. Abnormal, is it the Arcanaut Admiral base? Dino 10 Edition, the Lantern from the Stormcast guy. Ratface Gyrocopter. Have to work on this incorrect sound effect. It's not very good. Sergeant Oddball's Fish Eye. Gloom Dreader Gaming, NASA pic of alien structure on the moon. That is actually the closest one yet. Warlander TV, Empire Steam Tank. Lawrence Jameson, Fishmen. As much as I would love that to be true, it's not. Okay, I'm going to narrow it down even more now and tell you that it is a Kharadron Overlord model. Even if you just randomly type the names of them, someone's going to get it very quickly with that kind of clue. Oh, you know what? I think it's going to have to go to Fluffy Dread here, because he has guessed the Arcanaut guy with the top hat and mustache. Yes, it is actually from Brock Grungson, and I'll get a picture of him up in a minute just to confirm that. But that is actually one of his cannons, yes. So I'm going to give that one to Fluffy Dread. Even though you didn't actually get the name of it, I think that was close enough. So there we go. Well done indeed. So, Mr. M, I'm assuming you were never going to get that.
No, it did look like a barrel of a gun looking down it, but no, I wouldn't have guessed that. That's a tough one.
Too bad. So, Mr. Remington, what have you been painting this week?
I have been going a bit crazy with my Devoted to Sigmar force, and pretty much finished all the flagellants. In that, I've got a couple of wizards to paint. So I've got the flagellants, some battle wizards, and then I'm going to move on to the biggie, which is a war altar with Volkmar the Grim on it, and some Empire halberdiers or swordsmen, just to sort of be the kind of guard of honor, if you like. And then I've got a couple of witch hunters, and then that's all that's on the roster for Devoted Sigmar. There's nothing else you can have for that, which is a shame, because it'd be great to have some more like Inquisitor units.
And speaking of which, speaking of things you've been painting, we're going to have a look at those right now, actually, as we get to our own paintwork and then the audience's. So first of all, you can see confirmation there that it was, in fact, Brock Grungson, Lord Magnate of Barak Nar. It was his beautiful cannon there, mounted atop his head, where he holds his magnificent mustache cannons. It wasn't one of the mustache cannons, though. It was his big cannon. Okay, first up, Remington.
Here they go.
So this is quite the little force you've got going here now, isn't it?
It's going great. Do you like the two male slaves there on the left? See, I'm not just into female slaves, and it is fantasy, by the way. It's not real at all.
Well, so, there you go.
There you go. Then
the ones that have the end is nigh for 2d6 written on them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and the guy that looks a bit like Jeremy Corbyn at the front, he's the Forge World fanatic, so he's going to be like the hero. But I suppose, well, there isn't a flagellant hero, so I guess I'm going to have to make him a priest.
I assume you're going to call him Jeremy.
Yeah.
Who does have the potential to be a hero of the mortal realms.
Yeah, all the fine detail writing is with the much acclaimed Remington paint pen. So yeah, I've got I've got about 15 or 16 guys there done. I can move on now.
By the way, for anyone who is interested in Mr. Remington's, how can we say this? Anyone who was thinking that maybe Mr. Remington is a sexist, all you have to think about is that he is his defense to that is that, no, he is actually just really into slavery.
No, of course I'm not.
I think that was the gist of his argument, if anyone wants to make note of that.
Don't be silly.
Next. Oh, what do you know? It's the same. Again, from a slightly different angle.
Well, I thought you might want to see the close-up of the writing, but unfortunately the camera got a bit blurred looking at, I don't know, it was focused on something else, but yeah. Yeah, cool, man. I've got to do a bit of work on some of the bases just to get them all in the same style. But, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this text here. I don't think they're going to be able to live up to that, because as nice as they are, I'm assuming they all have one wound each and probably no armor. Is that right?
I think they might have a 6-up save. I don't know where that comes from. No, actually, they don't. They don't have a saving throw. No, they get some bonuses to hit or to wound, and they get some bonuses of extra attacks. And that's kind of it. If any of them like run away, sometimes if they fail bravery tests, sometimes that can inflict mortal wounds on the enemy if they're too close, but that's kind of it. So I don't know. You've been doing your Kharadron Overlords force at the same time I've been doing this. So if we're going to have a battle, I don't think it would last very long. To be fair.
You never know, it might. By the way, we have had a comment. People have been wondering, particularly Skeleton Flower, wondering when the next Golden Weasel Awards are going to be. And that's a very good question. We'll have to look what time of the year the last Golden Weasel Awards took place, and then correspond that up for this year, won't we? To make sure it's round about the same time. I think it's due soon, though, isn't it? And maybe we'll get a different trophy this time, an even more magnificent weasel. Who won, of course,
who won it last time?
The Golden Weasel was won by Mickey Genver last time.
Wow!
So,
nice.
Can anyone dethrone the reigning Golden Weasel champion? We'll find out over the next few weeks, no doubt. Look at this. It's another angle of your dudes again.
Well, there is the guy at the front with the sort of metal torture mask on. He's holding a pair of scissors. Giant pair of scissors. Don't know. It's not in the law, but I thought it looked kind of cool. But yeah, I'd like to have some more units for this. But if anyone's got any ideas what kind of things I could use, that'd be cool.
He does need suggestions for his mortal devotees of Sigmar and what you can use in that force.
I'm trying to think if there's any force in this whole fantasy AoS universe that this army would actually stand a chance against, and I'm struggling.
Okay, now this is the kind of thing you're thinking you might struggle against then.
Yeah.
Because here we have 10 Arcanauts. And now you immediately may think, he's talking about how he's not a cheesemonger, and then he's going to put 3 skyhooks in a unit. But I can tell you that I am using 3 of all the available weapons in the box. I'm just matching them up into 1 unit for each weapon. So I just painted the skyhook unit first. So it may give the impression of initial cheese, but that appearance of cheese is misleading. The cheese is only skin deep. It's like a cheese-topped pizza rather than an entire block of cheese. I hope that clears things up a bit. So, Mr. M, what do you think about these bad boys?
You've
done this colour scheme.
You've done great with them. Yeah, you've done wicked.
Yeah, I didn't really have that much of a plan for the colour scheme going into it, and it was one of those situations where before I'd put any washes on, they looked absolutely awful. I was painting them and I thought, I do not like where this is going at all. I don't think they're going to look good whatsoever. And then I put my favourite paint, just splashed it all over them, which is Gulliman Blue, which is technically not a wash. It's actually a glaze. But I find using it as a wash is really good. So I put that on all the metal and the clothes, and then I went over the clothes again and just left the dark crevices, which I think it makes a huge difference. You think, well, just putting a wash on it surely is enough. But it kind of leaves them a little bit cloudy, doesn't it? And then when you apply the main colour over it again, it just makes them look really nice and clean. So that's what I went for there. The same with the white on the gloves and the random towels they have dangling everywhere. So I'm really happy with how these came out, actually. Yeah, and the bases as well.
They look kind of, I don't know, they look a bit otherworldly, glowing kind of thing. It's got that spot on. And the weapons look brilliant, especially that gun at the back.
Yes, Russell Higgins says Smurf Arcanauts. Yes, there is a bit of a Smurf quality going on with them. Certainly. With the basing, I didn't want to go for just loads of dry brushed grey over black and then a couple of grass tufts. I wanted to make these guys actually look like they were just landing maybe in a field. So I've gone for some really minimalist kind of rocks and then put more grass on than usual. And I think that looks quite good as well. Next. Now these weapons here, I kind of dry brushed silver over the brass colour. And that was one of the last things I did because I thought they looked a bit too clean and the colour was a bit too dark. So it was a nice bit of highlight that there. What do you think of the little green eyes and lenses I've got going on here? Yeah, because they were painted entirely. Let's zoom in on someone's eye.
Yeah, these look brilliant. I think, you know what I mean? I think you've done, these are the best paint jobs I've seen you do.
These green bits here are a very good endorsement for the new Citadel technical paints, which are used for gemstones, because that was entirely the work of silver, and I think it's called Waystone Green.
Yeah.
The little eyeballs there.
I'm glad you've not, like, made the beards look metal.
They are metal, but I've tried to make it look like all the actual stuff that's supposed to be like metal facial hair. I've painted it a kind of copper colour. So from a distance, it just looks like a beard, which is what I was going for. Because I thought even with their armour, they would try and like commemorate their bearded nature by actually having their beards stand out on the armour, wouldn't they?
Do you know what looked really cool? Is if the guns were sort of smoking a bit. but like you'd need something for that that's not cotton wool. So maybe that could be a little invention I could maybe come up with. The fancy smoke.
A couple of people saying I need to drill out the gun barrels, and I was tempted, but I'm not sure I would get them consistent or even enough. So for the moment, they're staying like that, but I can always go back and do that in the future.
What about just painting a black hole there?
That's also an option. You can see them from the rear here if you like to see some dwarf butts, which I know everyone does.
Sounds a bit sexist, that.
It probably does, because there are no female dwarves available in the range at the moment.
Yeah, they look brilliant.
It's a bit weird, though, isn't it, how none of the new Age of Sigmar races have really featured females, apart from that one Stormcast that isn't even out yet.
Yeah, it's a shame.
You would have thought even GW by now, they would have had like their all-female army that they usually go for. As the female army.
Economically, I think they'd sell loads.
Can you think how many?
I'm not sure why.
Can you think they'd sell a lot more just regular, let's say, devoted of Sigmar, if some of them were like female, like nuns and priests combined kind of look?
I'd love that.
They're like these holy warriors.
Yeah.
Going off to battle for Sigmar.
Yeah, you're right. There hasn't been any since, like witch elves, really, or Sisters of Slaughter. Can't think of any other.
And even then, the kind of women they usually have, it's always either like nuns or these really crazy like ninja, scantily clad with whips kind of look. They very rarely just have you kind of normal soldiers as women, which is probably a way you would imagine they would go in the future when they get with the times. Okay, we've got some pictures from the audience now. So this is from Russ. And of course, you've painted one of these, haven't you?
Yeah, I did. It was the thought it was going to be a nightmare, but it was actually really nice to paint. It's all right.
So what do you think of his work here? I like the red. I like the dark shadow around the edge of it.
It is lovely, that. Yeah.
Nice highlighting on the gold as well. Next, this is from Mr. Sam Jones, who's, of course, painter extraordinaire.
I think that's my favourite colour, you know. Is it teal?
You're asking the wrong person.
No, it's not teal, because teal's a bit greenish blue, right? But that blue, I really like it. Turquoise.
It does seem to be blue leaning towards turquoise, in my non-expert opinion, being mildly colourblind.
It's even more impressive because you can see the guy's fingers, so you can see just how small that is. Yeah. Top work. Are you thinking of getting any of these Griffhounds?
Well, I've only painted one, and I didn't really enjoy painting it, even though I think it looks quite good. So I'm not sure if I would get more.
What about the birds?
I could definitely see myself getting some of them because they have a lot more dry brushing to do on them because of the feathers. I just don't like the smooth animal flesh.
Yeah.
I like how he's got mud on the paws on these things. I would be too scared to do that and ruin the paint job.
Yeah, it's terrific, that.
It's the same with any kind of weathering, really. I usually avoid it. Next, this is from Max, and we've got more corn going on here. So nice blood stains there on the axe, which is always nice for corn troops, and quite a contrast of skin colours there. You've got very, very kind of Uncle Fester-like white, and then this kind of tanned colour as well. Interesting.
Do you think he's got a couple more to come? Because you get those two in Gore Chosen, don't you?
That could be true, yes.
You don't get any female corn warrioresses, do you?
There was one.
Oh, Valkyrie the Bloody.
Yeah. But yeah, you would expect to see more. There was no reason they couldn't mix a few women in with the Blood Reavers and all that, is there?
Yeah, or female Marauders.
Yeah, someone pointed out in the chat that 40k and the Eldar and Dark Eldar have a few women thrown into the mix with the normal troops, which is good. Definitely, but I think it should be... You would think by the 41st millennium in particular, in 40k, that more armies would have that kind of theme going on.
Yeah, and like
If you look at the way the military's going over the last century, if you compare the way armed forces look now to 50 years ago, it's very, very different.
yeah, definitely, especially Imperial armies, because when you read the fluff, there's like female Imperium soldiers as well, but you don't seem to see many miniatures of those.
Yet. Could
No.
be on the way, you never know. This is from Alex. And this is a different look on the Stormcast. I haven't seen this colour used before. It looks kind of like the Space Wolf kind of colour, doesn't it?
Yeah, they do. It's like Fenrisian grey, is it?
Yes.
Rust grey.
I like the animal pelts, the way they're painted on here.
So do they come as like? Do they come like that, or do you have to?
Yes.
Is that a conversion? Yeah, they're
Yeah, these are the Vanguard dudes with their crystal ball.
So they're almost crying out for like a transfer image on the shoulder pads.
Yes, actually, I can see what you mean. Just something to draw the eye, you mean, on here, perhaps. Yeah, I could see that. I'm not a big fan of using transfers on miniatures because I'm too much of a crazy perfectionist and I would be terrified of getting them off center. So I just tend to avoid them. But I think, yeah, they would look good on here.
Whenever I use transfers, I always end up putting them in my paint washing pot, and then they sink to the bottom, and then I have to sort of try and get it out there somehow.
Oh, and look at this.
Okay.
This is my hideous Zench sorcerer from many, many, many years ago. It was originally painted round about the year 2000, I would say, maybe a tiny bit before that. And I actually took the picture in 2012, you can see there, and that was just to put it on eBay because I didn't want to look at it ever again. I mean, look at that pink and yellow horribleness. It stings your eyes and your brain at the same time, I think. I think there is a way it could have been made to look nice, but not with the painting skill I had at that time. So I'm glad that that's gone permanently. If I was painting it now, I think I would do a much better job.
I'm surprised at the year, really, because it's not that long ago. Not in Remington years, anyway.
Well, in Remington years, and you were obviously maybe just at the latter end of your prime when this was painted.
So would you say you're in your prime now, then?
I would say I'm just coming into my prime, yes.
Your hair grows back quick, that's for sure.
It does. I'm a physical specimen. Okay, look at this from Holy Backyard Prophet. That is some sizzling feather action we've got going on there.
Wow. That is mega. Base
that is tasty indeed.
But
these feathers here in particular.
Yeah. Be good to see some more angles of this creature.
Yeah, there are some more angles on the Andy and Rem Show Facebook group. I just picked one particular angle, but there are quite a lot of images of it on there. Brilliant. If you want to scroll down. And if you can't find it, you can just type Holy Backyard Prophet into the search and it should pop up then. So very, very tasty. All the Zinch stuff with all the feathers, I think it lends itself to being painted very intricately, but in a very time-consuming manner because there's so much tiny detail on each feather that you can pick out. So you can really go a bit nuts with it, can't you? Next, this is from Brand. And this is up your street, isn't it? Empire Soldiers.
These look top, these do. It's better, I mean, especially because of the bases. You obviously use that for Kings of War, Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, you can push them forward in Age of Sigmar and then unload them from the tray when you get to combat. Saves you having to use a broom to push your hundreds of models across the table.
Yep, brilliant banner as well. These do, the actual models do have they look like they have kind of a lack of detail on them, don't they? These Empire Soldier kits. Do you know what I mean? When you look at the arms and the legs, there's not much to work with. So making them look good is like a.
Yeah, I feel like I can relate a bit to the clothing here because I was feeling this kind of thing with the Arcanauts because the backsides of them, the legs and the buttocks, as it were, have that kind of flat, not much detail look. So just reapplying the base color after a wash actually helps a lot. And obviously these look like they've gone a little bit further than that because there's more highlighting going on here than I've used. But yeah, there is something you can do under those circumstances. It's just not the same kind of painting you would use if they were completely jammed with detail.
I think when I do mine, I'm gonna go for like you know what the Swiss Guard are?
No.
Never heard of them? Well, in the Vatican, the Pope he's got like a personal army called the Swiss Guard. So because my devoted had gone for like a Roman Catholic kind of vibe with the priests and being like a Catholic priest being the warrior priest, I'm going to go with the kind of a Swiss Guard look. So I'm going to have to research on what their color scheme is. I really like these guys.
This is from Andrew, and of course, look at that.
Nice. Got the old Noxus, Noxus oxide on it.
And it looks like at least some level of Remington dusting has been used on this model, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely some Remington line backing and dusting.
I like the throne cushion there. You don't want to be sitting on solid stone, even if you happen to be a vampire or Nagash or somebody like that. I'm sure you still want a comfy seat.
Do you think they should have released an optional like throne to put on that? So you've got like the vampire death throne, and then you could put like a more, a more good throne. You know what I mean? Because this looks specifically sort of chaos and death, doesn't it?
Yeah, they could bring out just a throne set that has different decorations, couldn't they? It wouldn't be that much trouble.
No, I'm sure they couldn't. They won't be able to resist putting some skulls on it.
Yeah, it would definitely have skulls. This is from Beezy, and this thing looks less like a cabbage than usual, although you do get red cabbage, don't you? Or is it? It's kind of purple though, isn't it? So it wouldn't look like this.
The cabbage thing's brilliant, but there's no denying it is a wicked model. You know what I mean? And this paint job's brilliant. I love the snotlings as well. Look how small.
Yes, the old school snotlings. It looks like.
That's like, they're like, for that cabbage monster, it's just like eating popcorn, isn't it? A snotling. They're tiny.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't even bother trying to eat them. They're so tiny. It wouldn't even be a snack. Especially when there's enemy across the table. That would probably be much more filling. I like the kind of transitions you get on this model.
Yeah.
And none of it, especially on these kind of legs, the armor, not necessarily the armor, but the armor that's actually part of its body, it's got enough on it. It's got lines across it and enough detail so that you're not worrying about it just being a big flat surface with a bit of edge highlighting. There's plenty of detail to sink your teeth into there. So even if you just do nothing but dry brushing, it'll be like scales and it'll still pick something up.
Definitely. I think with the base, the sort of reddish earth color, if that was even darker, the model itself would pop out even more. But that's just a thought. It still looks wicked.
Next, this is Sam Jones again, and it's a necromancer.
Wow, that looked like a painting when I first saw it.
I think the way I described this when I saw the miniature was it looked like Gandalf the White basically caved in and just put on the one ring and just started running amok.
That is really wicked.
Does look a lot like evil Gandalf though, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's terrific.
Very, very tasty. Very, very cold. Nice use of the snow there.
It's got brilliant source light effect, hasn't it, from the hands?
Yeah, where his hand touches the staff, you can feel how it's glowing outwards from his grip. Yeah, very, very nice indeed. Very good attention to detail on there. Very tasty. Next, this is Andrew. And these are what are these called? Is it Kyric Acolytes, are these ones?
Wow, they're amazing. Look at the scroll. Does all that detail come on the actual model, or has he put that in?
I don't know. Someone would have to clarify that. But yeah, either way, I especially like the blue on the shields.
Yeah.
That's the first thing my eye notices. the very strong blue
They've
on
got
the
like
legs as well.
a real elegance to them, haven't they? These guys. I mean, considering that basically they're beastmen, aren't they? They've just like they look like royalty.
Royal Beastmen.
Yeah.
Let's go with that. Most of these things, by the way, there are more pictures of them on the Andy and Rim Show Facebook group if you want to see more of each one. Okay, this is from Driddy, and this is a Blood Bowl troll throwing a helpless goblin with the ball through the air.
This is one of the new Blood Bowl miniatures, isn't it?
Yes, with, of course, the handy feature in Blood Bowl that you've always been able to do, which is launching one of your own guys with the ball through the air with a big monster.
I love the face paint of the troll, because you'd think he wouldn't be very artistic. He'd just sort of slap his face with loads of chalk. He's got that beautifully.
Yeah, I don't know how she's actually done it, so it actually does look like face paint rather than just white base coat on the model's face. It's very well done.
I think she probably dipped her finger into the pot and then did it as like a finger dry brush thing. You know,
Are you trying to push the Remington finger sponge again?
No, I think this is a raw finger.
You think this was Remington finger sponge raw?
Yeah, raw edition. But look, you can't move on till you talk about that the pink base.
Yes, the pink base. She color codes all her player positions, so I think this will be the only one that's pink, which does make it easy to spot which players are which in the heat of sporting combat. And I think we've only got one picture left. This is from Josh, and this is from his Kharadron Hobgoblin Evil Dwarf army. And I think this is a converted chemist, converted into a female hobgoblin, I think. What do you think of
that? What's coming out? Is that a pig coming out the?
A pig?
Like yeah.
Oh, coming out of the chimney?
Yeah.
I believe that is smoke, but yeah, I can see how you could see it's in the shape of a pig. It's smoke. I think he uses a kind of expanding foam to make the smoke into these kind of shapes and then paints it after that.
That's splendid. That is that like expanding foam? Is that to sort of keep out? You put it round doors and windows.
I'm not sure if it's that or whether it's like insulation foam or what. He might be in the chat right now. If he is, then let us know. Yeah, but yeah, if you're in any of the Kharadron Overlord Facebook groups, then you'll probably have seen his stuff in there.
Right.
So
that's
another
female hobgoblin.
Female hobgoblin chemist, I think it is.
I'm sure I found another picture of a hobgoblin uploaded, and it looked exactly like you with long hair.
I don't think that's true at all.
I did. I actually commented on it, so maybe I should find it.
I don't know about that. By the way, we've had a comment from Dreddy clarifying how the troll's face was painted. She says, I just used the brush like a troll would use his fingers. I don't know what to say to that, because I dread to think what trolls do with their fingers. I like how he's standing in a bear trap as well. That's a nice touch. Okay, time to stop the screen share. Okay, I think we're coming towards the end of this one, aren't we then? If anyone's got any pressing issues that you want to bring up in the chat, now would be the time before we wrap this one up for the evening. And now, Mr. Remington, it's coming up to that time of year where there are periods of time where you have a bit more free time. Is that true?
Yes.
So it's around about the time, traditionally, that you announce to the world that we're going to get loads of games in. And then about 3 months later, you then say, yeah, well, we planned to, but really, I didn't get time. So do you want to honour that tradition and keep that up again for another year?
Do you know what it is, Andy? It's like the week that I realise, the week before I realise I'm going to have some time off, I set up all these plans. And then during my week off, I don't get time because of all the stuff I've planned. So I can't promise anything, but I'm sure we can sort something out for a day. If you want to. get roundly beaten by the Rem?
I can't see that happening.
No?
Well, you haven't played against me since my Star Drake was painted.
Oh, dear. Well,
So, unless you bring multiple things that are just going to deliver mortal wounds in turn 1, which I know you do have in your collection. Oh, dear, what's he found? Is Rem screen sharing again?
I've just found that.
Dangerous.
This is Josh Aterson's paint job of a hobgoblin.
You saying that looks like me?
Yes.
I'm not sure about that. Okay, we'll let the audience decide that. I'm in the camp that it doesn't look anything like me at all. Maybe the hair was quite stylish, so maybe that's what did it. My hair is coming back. Let's see what kind of length we've got now. Has it reached the eyes yet? Just about. I could poke myself in the eye with it right now.
Well, we can't leave the show until I've plugged a wonderful newish group called Paint Order Minis. And the guy that runs that is called Dan, and he's been doing like a regular podcast as well, which is awesome. And a couple of weeks ago, he interviewed. Was it Jez Goodwin? He interviewed like a world famous Warhammer creator, and well, yeah, he interviewed me as well last week. So that's coming up online.
Has it not been released yet?
It's released any day now. So I'll put a little link up. Check it out. It's quite good.
Well, any time that Remington is on a podcast, I imagine they do have to have quite a heavy editing process, so I can understand why it's not been posted yet. Got to make sure he hasn't made any controversial remarks.
Well, yes, can't offend anyone.
Before we go, Fluffy Dread says that blooming Star Drake. Yes, it did eat quite a few of his Skaven in my last battle report, which features the legendary Chimera Jeff. So anyone that hasn't seen that should probably watch it. Everyone's seen it by now, though. Did you see the battle report, Mr. Rem?
I did. It was really nicely done. It was brilliant.
Did you enjoy the high quality production values and the music and the scrolling bits of animation?
It was spot on. Spot on that. No wonder you won the Warhammer YouTubers Award for battle reports.
Yeah, I'm upping my game now, but I don't think I'm going to win that again. I think there's going to be a lot of protest votes against me next year. I think it's going to go to one of the big, kind of boring channels instead. Instead of people that are down there in the trenches getting their hands dirty, it's going to go to one of these.
Yeah, well, that's why you got to kind of edge in new categories, haven't you? Like, best haircut or something.
Best hairstyle, I think, would be in with a chance there. I think we could take that. Skeleton Flower's got a bit of a crazy hairstyle, though, hasn't he? I think it goes right. It's almost down to the floor now, his hair, I think.
It's amazing.
So he's got the length, but I'm not sure whether he has the kind of natural volume and style potential that mine has. He's quite jealous of the luxurious nature of mine.
There's nothing you can't do with your hair, Andy. And speaking of awards, I mean, I must congratulate you. On the last Andy and Rem show that come out, you sang the outro, and it was actually superb. It was so good. I'd love to hear you do it again, Andy.
Well, I'm thinking that I could do that every other episode. We could alternate on doing the outro. So,
okay,
it's going to be your turn this time. And if people in the audience would like to throw in anything that you would like Rem to sing about, and he'll add those lyrics to the song, provided they're not X-rated, then that can be our outro. So you can probably start by using some of the lines that people have already put in there before they knew about this. So before that, of course, everyone, check out all the links in the description, as usual, all the various social media, Facebook groups, and so on. And thanks for joining us on this wonderful evening. Different day than usual, but we've had a packed house all the way through. I don't think we're going to be making it a permanent move to Wednesdays, though. It's strictly a one-off due to technical internet issues yesterday. And we will catch you next time, whenever that may be. Maybe Mr. Rem will be forcing us back into weekly shows again. We shall see. So, would you like to sing us out, Mr. Music?
It's not easy to stay PC when you've recorded over 100 shows. Hundreds of hours of conversation. That's just the way it goes. But no one sings like Andy. He sings much better than me, but no one sings like Andy. It's clear for all to see.
And here, Andy Palooza.